few years ago, 2012 or 2013 I think, since I was still in high school then, I was at a party with some friends. As the night goes on, maybe 11 or 12 at night, one of my friends and I go outside to have a cigarette. The second we get outside, there's just this completely awful, foul smell, like just blood, vomit, and death all at once. Now this was somewhat the middle of nowhere, so we just figured it was a dead animal and went on with having that cigarette. Less than a minute later, we hear something move in the dark, and sure enough, a deer comes hobbling into the very edge of the porch light. So we just mention, "Oh, how cute," and the like. But then I noticed something. One of its front legs was messed up in some way, and I'm talking like broken and multiple places messed up. So my friend and I are slightly off-put by this, and finish up our cig and go to head inside. However, right as we start to do that, one of the two porch lights goes pop and goes out. So now it's less light outside and this deer is back into the darkness. So, a bit giddy, we both do this fake scared squeal at each other and turn around to go inside. That's when we heard it, that undeniable sound of nails on the concrete patio. We both slowly turn around to see this hunched over, rotten coyote doing this very slow, very unnatural crawl towards us. We go from 0 to 600 paralyzed with fear almost instantly, until another one of our friends playfully pulls us through the open door, telling us to get back to the party. To this day, I have not experienced anything like that, and it's one of the most horrifying things I have ever experienced. Today is my late grandmother's birthday that brought up a memory I kind of repressed from 6 or so years ago. So in 2010, my mom was pregnant and she ended up having a miscarriage. I was like 11 and I was absolutely devastated. I spent my entire life hoping and praying for a sibling, and when I was this close to having one, it was taken away. I do have little brothers now though. Obviously my mom felt a lot worse than I did, and I don't want to downplay her grief at all or anything, but I was really tore up. To help me cope, my grandma had me write a note to the baby and then burn it in a candle outside. When the last piece of ash flew off, I felt so much better. I think she wanted to say goodbye because later that night I was in the bathroom and I heard what sounded like a little girl say, "Mommy," really loud, like she was looking for her mother. The TV was on, but there were no little kids on the show my dad was watching, and I could hear the TV noise in the background. It was different from the voice. We lived in an apartment at the time, but none of our surrounding neighbors had kids and the walls weren't that thin to begin with. I spent a lot of time trying to debunk what I've heard because I thought it was impossible, but the more I think, the more I see that it was honestly unexplainable, and I do think it was my little sister making herself known and saying goodbye. Today is my grandma's first birthday since she passed, and I think I'll do the letter and the candle thing again because, call me crazy, but I genuinely think it gets the message to them. This was told to me by a neighbor years ago. It really bothered him and he wanted to tell me about it. Back in the early 90s, he got a contract to do some structural work under the street near Independence Hall where the Declaration of Independence was signed. It's a national historic park in the States. He went down the manhole to the tunnel under the streets and looked around at the connecting tunnels. Some other men were doing work above ground. He was working on some wires near the open manhole when a guy wearing a white shirt and dark pants leaned up against the wall near another narrow tunnel. My neighbor friend turned to him and said, "Whoa, where'd you come from? You scared me." Thinking this guy was another worker, the guy said, "What needs to be done here?" My friend proceeded to tell him, but then when he turned around, the man wasn't there. He figured he didn't want to know or got bored. He didn't see him pass him to the exit. When he finally went up, the foreman went to close the cover. My friend said, "Wait, there's someone else down there." The foreman looked confused, counted the 3 other workers and him and said there was no one else in the job. When he got back to the truck, it all made sense to him that the man was a ghost. The odd clothes, the disappearance, and he realized he never saw the guy's face. This happened to me just a couple of days ago. and like most of the people in the world, my cell phone is permanently attached to my hands. I keep it charged all day long, and when the battery runs low, I plug it in. Except on weekends, I don't like to be bothered, so most weekends from Friday till about Sunday evening, my phone will be dead, and it'll stay that way until I plug it back in on Sunday. Well, this last Friday, my wife and kids were gone for the weekend and I was home alone. No surprise there. Anyways, after work at about 6 when I got home, I had about 15% life left on my phone, and my wife knows I won't charge my phone for the weekend, and if she wants to get a hold of me, she could send me a Facebook message. My tablet is always charged, or I'm on the computer playing games anyways. I had dinner, watched some TV, and by the time it was 8, my phone was dead, so I threw it on the nightstand so I didn't have to look for it at a later time. So I went about my night and played a couple of rounds of Call of Duty before deciding to go to bed at around 1 to 1:30 a.m. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, and I'm not one to wake up unless my alarm goes off in the morning. But at around 3, my alarm did go off, and I found it strange. Why would I have the alarm set to go off at 3? I didn't think too much of it, so I laid back in bed, and I was about to shut my eyes when all of a sudden, my phone starts ringing, and 2 things came to mind when that happened. One, the ringtone was not the one I had for incoming calls, and the other one obviously being that I knew my phone was dead. I opened my eyes and I can see the brightness of my screen on the wall, so I know I wasn't imagining things. I had a cold chill run down my back as I turned around to reach for my phone to see who was calling. It was no one, and I don't mean an unknown number. I mean it was a white screen with only the slide to answer or decline buttons on the screen. I was already awake and afraid, so whether or not I answered the call, it didn't matter. I picked up and hesitated to put the phone to my ear. I said hello and didn't get a response, so I said hello again, and I could hear a faint whisper, but couldn't make out the words. Then I heard a laughter that chilled me to the bone, and it startled me that I actually dropped my phone. Just as it hits the bed, I could hear the sinister laughter coming out from my speakers, and behind its laughter, I heard screaming. I couldn't move, and I'm not sure how long it lasted, but it felt like minutes before it all stopped. Screen turned off, and my room dark again, only the red glow from my alarm clock was illuminating my room. I was still shocked looking at my phone the whole time without blinking. I reached to grab my phone, and the first thing I did was try and turn it on. Nothing, like I said. I know my phone was dead, so I turned my bedroom light on and plugged in my phone. I went back to bed, and in the morning I turned my phone on and I checked my calls. Nothing. I can't explain it, but I do hope someone had a similar experience happen to them. I just moved into an old house in an unfamiliar area out of state. We guesstimate that it was probably built in the 30s. Well, it started out that my boyfriend and I would see weird shadows in the hallway outside our bedroom, always at different times. We just decided to talk about it one day, and I guess we both have noticed it. I've also seen goosebumps on his arms, and his hair is standing straight up sometimes when he walks through the hallway. Next, whenever I'm in the bathroom, I get a whiff of scent that I know nothing in this house should smell like. It is old, musky, kind of baby powderish, like how an older woman would smell. Now recently, we have been hearing noises, random knocking, and today I came home from work, walked through the hallway and said, "Hello, hallway ghost." A few minutes later, I was grabbing something comfy to wear, and I heard this weird ringing noise, like a ringtone, but it definitely wasn't my iPhone, and there is nothing in the house that should be making a noise like that. It is still pretty empty, and we don't have much for electronics. I brought it up to my boyfriend when we got home, and he said he had heard it as well. So I'm not exactly sure what is going on, but it definitely seems like there is a spirit or entity here. Nothing evil, just there, and I firmly believe in an afterlife as I have seen ghosts before. There's no talking me out of this one. Has anyone else had these things happen to them before? First, this is going to sound insane, so I am going to do my best to give you all the info in the most logical order. Here are the facts. Fact: my boyfriend and I are the only 2 people with keys to my house. I do not have company over, and no one knows my schedule but my boyfriend. My boyfriend is no way involved in any of this. So Monday evening, I had a bottle of wine winding down from an extremely tough day. This may or may not be important, but I am sure someone will ask. My daughter and I were the only people in the house. She asked if she could sleep next to me, and I said she could. We got into bed at 9:24 p.m. The time is specific because as we were lying there, we were watching a video on YouTube that was a music video to a song I would like to use in my wedding. I emailed the link to myself so I would not lose it at 9:24 p.m. I plugged up my phone and went to sleep with her on my chest. At around 4:55 a.m., I suddenly woke and felt panicked. I looked over to grab my phone, and it was gone. I looked for it beside the bed, and even the charger is missing. I tried calling from my house line, and it was going straight to voicemail, so I called my boyfriend from the house phone and tell him I am not able to locate my phone, and if he could call me to wake me up at 6:20 a.m. I went back to sleep and got up when he called. After he called, I searched again for my phone with no luck. I decided to just go to work and worry about it later. When I arrived at work, I logged into my email, and at 12:17 a.m., I had an email from Samsung saying, "Here's the link to reset your password." WTF? Then at 12:20 a.m., you have successfully reset your password. Immediately I changed my password and start freaking out. Who had my phone? How did they get it? And what is going on? I tracked my phone through Google Maps and activities and saw this. My phone reached my house at 5:34 p.m. It didn't ever leave the house. At 12:13 a.m., someone or something logged on my phone, clicked the lock, home and Samsung account, and that was it. Guys, my phone is legit gone. My boyfriend and I searched every inch of the house. We even went through the laundry, freezer, and litter box. It and the charger is gone. I can understand losing a phone, but a charger too, and I was in bed with it. No, myself or my daughter do not have and have never slept walk. Yesterday, my Amazon Fire TV kept kicking on, and it has never done this before, so I have analyzed this as much as my tiny brain will allow. It could be one of these things. 1, my boyfriend was jealous and hijacked my phone while I was asleep. Problem with that, he would have left with the phone showing on Google Maps. He is not tech savvy at all, and he would have looked at obvious apps like Facebook Messenger. Someone somehow broke into my home and stole it from next to me and my child while we were sleeping. Problem with that, called the police. They said no forced entry and my doors were locked when I got up, so the polite burglar walked by all my other crap and went to the device next to the sleeping person. My phone and charger may have slipped through a wormhole, or I have a poltergeist. Please, help me figure this out. I'm not particularly religious, but I'm not an atheist. I've always been terrified of spirits, ghosts, and exorcisms, and pretty much everything paranormal, so I pretty much avoided contact with anything since always. I just don't want to have this experience. Besides the fact that this thing makes me feel really bad, I'm a person with tons of interests and projects, and I just don't want this to occupy any space in my life. From what I've seen, people who are open to this kind of interaction often dedicate a great deal of time towards it. Obviously, I find it interesting, but I just like to hear the stories. Well, since 2007, I've been having more and more frequent kinds of situations. I feel like something definitely is happening. Some of them have been very explicit. Some of them have been very explicit. Some of them, I'm not even sure some contact has happened at all, but still they make me feel very uneasy. Here's some of the things that happened. In 2007, I had my first episode. During a New Year's night, I was by myself at home. When I went to sleep, 3 a.m., as soon as my head touched the bed, every door, window, and wardrobe door in my room started violently opening and shutting. I ran away from the house and waited in the yard until the sun came out. In 2014, I had books literally thrown out of my bookcase and a cup of glass filled with water kind of explode at the same moment. This year, 2017, I was traveling with a girlfriend in Buenos Aires, and after visiting the Rocoleta cemetery, we had a feeling of dread pursuing us for the rest of the day. It lasted until we went to the church there and prayed a few Hail Marys. We're both of Catholic upbringing, and it was the only thing we could think of. This is the worst part for me. I keep having moments in my life, usually in the last months, where I feel a presence every night. I don't see anything. Nothing exceptional happens. I just feel something very weird on my back while on my computer, and just feel uneasy when I'm in bed. Sometimes I wake up to whispers or movements, but see and hear nothing as I try to detect something. If I have a girlfriend sleeping by, I don't feel this at all. It just happens to me alone. I'm writing this right now because I'm at one of those moments that I'm just tired of feeling uneasy all the time. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I think it would be better if I tried to communicate with whatever it is and solve the situation, but I'm afraid of opening any doors I might not be able to close afterwards. Some other facts that might be relevant. Since these events started, I've already moved 3 times, so I don't think it's location related. My sister lives with me. She says she sees spirits all the time, talks to them. We get along fine. We're not exceptionally close, but we talk sometimes, and she even helped me in some of the situations by kind of exercising my room. But one, I think she doesn't care too much, as she often dismisses what has happened, and 2, I'm not really aware of what or how she sees things. She told me once she deals with all kinds of godly deities, and sincerely I don't doubt she believes this, but I'm not entirely sure I do. So what do I do? Can it be something harmless? Should I be worried? Should I deal with it by myself or contact some kind of specialist? This happened in 7th grade at a party. The girl who was hosting wanted to play Bloody Mary, and she didn't go in alone. They piled a bunch of us in the bathroom with her. I didn't want to do it for some reason, but peer pressure, so I went in. I sat down on the toilet, and this girl Trisha sat on my lap. While they were doing their chant, I prayed the Our Father with my eyes closed. I heard them all scream and opened my eyes and saw red. I told myself it was because I was squinting. Everyone ran out, laughing, and then started discussing what they saw. No face, just swirls in the mirror. So of course they wanted to do it again. Same drill. Trisha on my lap. I'm still praying. I hear the chant, then the scream. Then something hot and wet. Trisha peed all over me. They had to offer me her brother's sweats to wear. All of them, Trisha included, saw a face. At that point, I was done because someone had peed on me. The girl whose house it was wanted to do it again, and she and 3 others went back in. We could hear them chant and then another scream, but this was different. They all come piling out, only that girl now has a cut cheek, and it's bleeding. The medicine cabinet mirror, now this was attached via magnets, flew open and hit her cheek hard enough to make it bleed allegedly. I told myself at the time that they did it just to scare us. Still, there was something that made me feel uneasy about her, and we stopped hanging out. One summer between years in college, I saw one of the girls at the pool. I asked her what really happened. She said that no one lied. The mirror came off the magnet, still attached to hinge, just like if someone pulled super hard to open the door and hit her. Okay, so I put this out for my friend. Not sure if anybody has had any similar experiences to games like Bloody Mary and 3 Kings. Recently, I have awoken to something touching me. Sometimes at night, I think I feel a hand creeping over me, like a light touch of someone running their hand over my torso and legs as they walk around the bed. It pulls my blankets and tugs at my clothes. Sometimes my blankets are pulled off the lower corner of the bed, even when I tuck them under in hospital style. I hear whispering at night. At first, I thought it was the radio or television I left on, or maybe my Amazon Alexa was reconnecting to the Wi-Fi. I've unplugged everything at night to troubleshoot it, but still I hear what sounds like whispering, but never loudly enough to understand what is being said. Sometimes I hear loud clanks and weird noises like bamboo sticks being clanked together. I don't have anything that would make that sound, and I have also had plumbers check out the pipes as I feared something was loose in the walls. They didn't find anything, and all the pipes were replaced and updated in 2014 when I bought the house. I have even woken up to investigate late at night, but found nothing but an empty home and locked doors. I also see shadows out of the corner of my eye. I see them moving in the halls or in the basement, just shuffling past. I thought at first it could have been a passing car reflecting off windows, but I live very far away from the road as well as any main street. When a car does pass, it is so far away it is barely visible through the trees. I have also had items moved. First it was small things, remotes, tools, coffee mugs, but recently my furniture in the living room was flipped upside down. My leather sofa, leather love seat, rocking chairs, and all tables in my study, as well as my heavy rustic chairs in the kitchen. I live alone. I'm a 34-year-old man. I don't have any pets. My dog passed last year. Not much scares me as I use logic and science, but this is becoming increasingly disturbing. I have new smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in every room, including the basement, as well as security alarms and motion detectors. I do use the fireplaces for wood burning, and the range uses gas, but everything is checked out. I have ordered new motion detectors that also record video and audio and will install them as soon as they arrive. I hope that will either catch this unexplained activity. While I hope it is a physical person, I also hope someone is not breaking into my home. I work from home most of the time and only go into the office once a week. Last year I had family and friends over for Christmas. I had a few people stay the night and they all heard the same clanks and strange whispering. Friends and family who stay over have different experiences, ranging from feeling of being watched, small items moving from suitcases to closets to under the bed or in dressers. I had a friend who was showering when she heard the bathroom door inside the bedroom open and was open when she looked out. Windows open, doors open and closed, but not slam, randomly. The farmhouse is on the outskirts of a small town, and my nearest neighbor is about 19 miles away. Farmland and trees separate us. I also don't live off a main highway or road. My driveway is off a small two-way street that winds down a gravel road. My house is about 130 to 140 years old. I'm not sure on the exact date. It was renovated in 2014 when I purchased the property to update pipes, wiring, windows, update the fixtures, refinish the floors, update the tile in the bathroom, and add an addition to the side. This is an attached carport and cover that extends over the driveway near the side of the house, as well as update the siding and supports. Basically a complete restore and update job. It is 3 floors, ground, first, and second, with small attic and storage space above the second floor, plus a full basement that is not finished. It is all open with a new concrete floor. I use it for storage and a laundry room is there. The ground floor has a formal sitting room, a kitchen and dining room, my study and a living room. Off the side is a pantry and a mud room and a half bath. The first floor is 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, as well as a large bonus room that I am using as a library. The second and top floor is the master bedroom with bathroom, walk-in closet that was originally a small room and closet. I also have a sitting and dressing room outside the closet and bathroom. My bedroom also has French doors that open up to the veranda over the side of the home. The basement originally was a cellar with dirt floors and boards to walk on. I updated it in 2014 when I purchased the property. There are 2 doors that open to the outside with steps, but they are locked from the outside and inside at all times. I don't know much about the location other than it was in the same family since it was built. It was a working farm for a large amount of tobacco and corn. There is also a large stable in the back that has not been updated since 99 or 2000, but is in decent condition. I don't have horses. There is a small cemetery in the back of the property beyond the tree line. 2 headstones that date back to 1854, the other date from 1860 to 1957. There are a decent amount of headstones in the area. It is fenced off and cast iron gates and fencing, and I pay to keep it maintained. The grass mowed and general maintenance to ensure the fence is still intact and nearby trees and foliage is kept away for the family that remain. An elderly woman in her 80s who lives in a nursing home out of state, and her great-granddaughter who lives in New York City. They have permission to visit any time, as there is a separate gravel road that circles the side of the property to the cemetery. I'm not sure if there is more family, but they seem very kind and appreciate my maintaining their family plots. Update. I currently have 3 people over. We have been friends for most of our adult lives. After 9 p.m., everyone was settling down, just unwinding from a long day of fun. We were in the living room, sitting around the fireplace, flipping through the local stations, Netflix and Amazon to find a movie or something to watch until we turned in for bed. Around 10 after, we started hearing a tapping sound. At first we thought it was just the fireplace warming the chimney and surrounding area causing it to expand and make noise, but it was louder in the kitchen, which we discovered when Sarah, fiancée of my friend Michael who are visiting from Ohio, walked into the kitchen to grab a drink. At first it seemed to be coming from the back door that leads off the kitchen into the back lawn, facing the back of the property. This is said to be one of the original doors of the home. However, I did have it sanded and repainted to match the updated interior. But as we followed the noise, it seemed to be moving around the ground floor, tapping on all the windows. It was a very light tapping, but it sounded like someone with longer nails is tapping the windows. Tap, pause, tap, longer pause, tap. Once we exhausted all explanation, we had the thought that it might be Morse code, so Sarah started writing it down, but it didn't match up to letters or words. After a while it stopped, but Sarah and Mike said they heard it in the upstairs hall and in the bedroom well past midnight. Alex, the other friend staying over the weekend, also reported hearing the tapping well into the early hours from his room. But the biggest disturbance was late that night. The security alarm went off at 2 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. The alarm was a broken glass and open window on the second top floor where my bedroom is, then the first floor, and then the ground floor. We searched all around the outside, every window, including the attic and storage space area, and found nothing. I thought it could have been an animal or a bird, but we still found nothing. I have not seen any disturbances or signs of there being animals or rodents in my home. After this hour-and-a-half disturbance of our sleep, we thought it was over. Just a fluke of some wiring, or perhaps the tapping sounds were loud enough to jiggle the house, hard enough to set off the alarms. But the kitchen was a war zone. Everything was taken out of the cabinets and on the floor, neatly stacked or grouped as it was in the cabinet. Plates, bowls, saucers, spices, blender, everything. The kitchen chairs were again on the table. These are heavy rustic sets. Now since then, it's been about 5 days. I am still installing the cameras this weekend when I have more time to pause from work, but it has been very interesting nonetheless. I've had friends over helping me with a few projects and others just on a mini vacation from Ohio. I've started smelling perfume in my bedroom, especially late at night and in the evening. As stated before, I am a 34-year-old man. I do not wear perfume, and I do not have a significant other at this time, and I have not had anyone over that would have been in my bedroom or at the time that I have smelled it. The perfume smells very floral, but also old. It reminds me of an older woman. It's musky, and yet somehow it also smells like baby powder too. I and my friends have heard tapping on the windows, not just the ground floor but the first and second floors. Even when we shine light out the window or turn on the porch lights, the tapping continues and can feel it on the glass. We have also heard moaning or crying noises. In the basement where the laundry room is, we have heard what sounds like a woman moaning or crying. This is not a sexual moan, but more forlorn and sad. So, update. After installing the cameras, I have yet to capture anything on camera. The motion detectors activate, but nothing is on the camera when I review it. Nothing moving, nothing falling, and the kitchen has been quiet, except for things moving. I did take some advice from a friend, and kind of assert my stance on moving things, and I literally said, I live here now. This is my home. Leave my things alone. You can tap and talk and walk around, but stop moving things. I don't know if this will actually continue to be okay and normal, but so far so good. But I did feel like a crazed person shouting in my kitchen. However, the perfume has continued to linger in the entire house now. It's not a huge issue, but it is not my favorite smell. I am in the process of researching the property, hoping to find some information about the house and maybe the history. Renovations. My friend said that he read that when the place is renovated and the walls are moved, that sometimes the energy in a place can increase, like stoking a fire. We mostly updated the ground and first floor. We did take out a wall to open the kitchen, dining, and living room and study, but the first floor bedrooms are still in the same place. The bathrooms were added to 2 rooms and updated the first floor bathroom, but my floor was completely redone. I opened up the bedroom in the second bedroom and room that was up there, and turned it into a walk-in bathroom with closet and dressing room. The attic and storage space is untouched other than the windows being replaced and the area being cleaned and touched up. I wonder if this is one reason for locations of the most activity. We also joked that the spirit was just amazed with the new windows and was tapping to test the new glass because it was so smooth and beautiful. Before my friends left, we did talk about what we had experienced in the week that they were there. But one thing I didn't mention because I thought I might have been dreaming was a woman in a light blue dress and sleeping gown and robe. I saw this woman in the doorway of my closet, what was once another bedroom and room. She was probably 5'4" with a long blonde braid over her shoulder with a blue ribbon at the end of the braid. She looked to be mid-20s to early 30s, but no makeup and barefoot. She didn't say anything but just leaned against the doorframe. I wouldn't say she was smiling, but she seemed happy. There was a weird feeling that came over me, which is why I thought I was dreaming, but I felt like she could have been my wife or girlfriend, like she had just finished brushing her teeth and was ready to climb into bed. I didn't mention this to my friends, but Sarah said she thought she saw a woman with blonde hair and a blue dress in the kitchen, sitting near the window on the bench, and again near the fireplace. Michael also said that he thought he saw a woman in blue with light hair in the field near the stable, really early in the morning, but it was so misty and foggy, he thought it might have been his imagination, especially when he rode the four-wheeler over to the stable to check it out, and didn't find anything. He told Sarah, and she told him about seeing her in the kitchen. Alex didn't see anyone, but he did smell the perfume in his room late in the evening when he went to bed, and said that he thought he felt someone run their hand through his hair and pull the blanket over his shoulder, like a mother would do to a child, and tuck them in. Now, I'm okay with this new activity of a motherly figure who just checks on my guests and keeps their hands off my freaking kitchenware. This is a story that was told by a workmate to me a while back. She's a woman in her 60s living by herself in a house. One evening she was watching TV in her living room and decided to make some tea, so she boiled some water and brought a cup and a box of tea bags from the cupboards over the sink and took them with her to the TV and continued to watch while she drank her tea, and eventually she fell asleep. She woke up a while later and looked at the clock. It was around 12:30 a.m., so she decided to turn off the TV and go to bed. So she brought her cup and the box back to the kitchen. She put her cup in the dishwasher, but instead of putting the box of tea bags back to the cupboard above the sink like she always did, she put it in one below the bench. The kitchen windows are just beside those cupboards and are facing towards the front side of the house, and as she bent over to put the box in, she turned her head to look out the window, and she saw an old man walking outside. She got a bit confused, wondering why an old man would take a walk at this time. His hair was gray and unkempt. Then suddenly she saw the old man turn and walk up towards her door, and then she got nervous. She remembered that she locked the door, so she calmed down a little bit, but she kept an eye on the old man, who now had stopped by the door and was just standing there. Now she became even more nervous and confused than before, but she wanted to get a closer look at him through the door peephole, so she left the kitchen. But what she saw when she got to the hallway made her completely freeze in fear. The old man was wiggling into the hallway through the closed locked door and was now slowly wiggling towards her. Then suddenly, everything went black. But then she saw some light. It was the morning sun and she was in her bed. After realizing where she was and remembering the things she saw that night, she just dismissed it as a dream. But then she remembered the box of tea bags that she put in a different location the night before. So she went up to the kitchen and opened it. And there it was, in the cupboard under the bench, the box of tea bags.